Okay, so the idea is for this week, you're trying to find an article um, or a point that is opposed to your view, right?
Mhm.
So this is all about trying to find that. So one of the things I mentioned, what is your um, what is your view? Like, what's your position that you are going to take so far? One of the dangers or one of the difficulties is if your position is too broad, it's very hard to find an opposing view, right?
Mhm.
So, and I say something like, if I said the United States should improve the educational system, so if that was my, it's so broad that it's impossible to find an opposing view because no one would ever say, no, they should not improve it, right?
Mhm.
So, and if it's too specific, you have the same problem. So you're trying to come up with a position that is, right in between, right? Not too
Mhm.
broad, not too specific. So, for example, are you more focused on like pregnancy, like female healthcare?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Just low income female, pregnant female.
Here though. See, this is where I start to try to make sure you have enough to say. Because what you could do if you do female in general, then one of your main ideas can be about pregnancy, but you could also talk about other things like birth control or so, you know what I mean? Like you could do other subjects. Because
Uh-huh.
in the end, we're trying to create a paper that's about, I don't know, 8 pages long or something. So we want to make sure we have enough to talk about. That's all.
Mhm.
So I'm just leaving it a little bit broad, although so I think it's pretty good in the sense that you've already narrowed it a little bit. You're not talking about everybody who's low income. You're talking about specifically like female health care. People will argue that it's better that it's better that the government doesn't do it and that everything is private. So
Uh-huh.
private clinics, everybody. So that's a big thing here anyway, right? They try to be like, we don't want the government running it because the government screws up all the time. They don't know what they're doing. So instead, we should have companies doing it. And that's a pretty big counter argument that they've been arguing in real life forever.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
So you're trying to find an article that at least talks about both things, so
Like
that you
private
can.
and government.
Sure, yeah, you're going to find one that compares it. But what you really want is you want to find information that will help you say um, why the government does things better or something like that. And
Mhm.
actually, I mean, the government does things better, especially for lower income people, because private healthcare doesn't take care of low income people because they don't have enough money. That's the whole point, right, of why government can do it. But anyway, so this is about satisfaction, patients view. Oh, so this is all about how patients view private healthcare. Discussion then, right? Let's see. So you're looking in an article, it could be any article, it could be one of the articles that you already have. What you're looking for is the
Mhm.
opposing point. So you're looking somewhere in an article that's like um, something about how the government's not very good at healthcare or something. So that you can quote that. The process to do this for like completely like counter argument means you basically bring up the other side, you find a way to agree with some part of what they're saying, and then you refute or rebut or knock down the rest of their argument. So um, now the theory would be that I know what I'm talking about here. Right now, I'm just sort of making stuff up on top of my head,
Right.
but I would have information that could back me up. So I say something like, so while it is true that providing good health care for low income women is very important, right? So I'm trying to make the connection like the other people, the some people, and I agree on that. The private system refuses to treat them because they don't have enough money. So that's what I'm going to end up saying. So I bring up the other side. I say, yeah, we both want to do this one thing, like help this people, but your way is a disaster, basically.
Yeah. So, but I can say like I believe like government should provide them all this all the healthcare and medication for low income, but some people may disagree with it because they believe that I mean, it's better that private healthcare should come to the system and help the government to
Yes, but then you don't stop there. You say they're wrong.
they're wrong.
So,
Right.
right. So
And
that's
then,
exactly, though. That's exactly right. You have your position. You say some people will disagree because they have this other belief, but they're wrong about that belief, or they're
they're
their
wrong because
data
I
doesn't.
believe like private company doesn't have enough income or money to
Right.
provide all
Well,
the income
yeah,
we
and it
need.
won't do it because they can't pay and all of right. But you want to have information too, so you want to have a research where you can say, well, according to
Yeah,
these
but
statistics,
according to this article,
yeah,
right.
exactly. It's basically that idea. Like, it's just telling, this is exactly what we talked about. You introduce a criticism that's opposed to your point. You find a way to agree with some part of it. Then you reaffirm your own point using logic or reason, research, stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's what the counter argument is. And it's supposed to be doing a couple things. It's supposed to help people really focus their topic. I think yours is good already. I think it's narrow enough. It's not too narrow and all that.
Mhm.
So I think that part is good. But now, right, so the counter argument is, and then eventually in the essay you'll do that. You'll put this part into the essay where you say, here's what other people think and why they're wrong. So you want to try to, if you can, I tell people the best thing to do is to try to find, if you can, as we go through the process, is to try to find 3 counter arguments.
But on stage 2, it said you find a way to agree with some aspect of the criticism, but I'm not agree with whatever. If I'm not agree with whatever they say,
you have to you're finding something to agree with, right? So that's why in my example here, I agree that it's important to provide health care to these people, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm agreeing on something that's pretty basic, and then I'm saying, but their idea of how to do it is wrong, or something like that. Yeah, so you're not switching and really agreeing and getting into that, because that ruins your argument.
Exactly.
You want to bring it up and you want to say, this is what some people think, but they're not quite right because of these reasons.
Okay.
So this might make it even more. So I word it in a way that makes more sense. So I say, since it is important that low-income women receive the best health care, the private system can provide the best. So actually, I still need to do that. Some people, I always need to, some people, or there are people, opponents or whatever. Some people believe that since it's important that low-income women receive the best health care, the private system provides the best and most efficient health care. So if that's what I'm going to say that's what the other side. So some people believe that. I will then say, well, it's true that providing health care for low-income women is very important. So I'm agreeing that it's important, just like the other side. And then I'm going to talk about how the private system is not the best route, because it doesn't treat them because they don't have money or something like that.
Right.
So eventually what we want 3 supporting ideas. So you have your basic general argument is the government should provide services for low-income women. And then you're going to want 3 main things to talk about. It might be pregnancy, could be a whole area. Who knows? You're trying to find a way to come up with 3 examples almost, or 3 supporting arguments. That will help you show your bigger point. So your big thesis is that the government should provide healthcare for low-income females. And then you want to give 3 sort of supporting reasons why that is.
Like, for example, they give a birth to the healthy baby, like if they have,
Right, exactly. Right. You're like, so that's right. So you do one whole thing is it's safer. It's safer to have the government do this than the private or whatever. And so then you make that argument. And then you can do other diseases.
Be like stressed out during the pregnancy, worrying about their treatment and
right, or not being treated, or being afraid to go in because they don't have any money, and they only go in when it's like they go to the emergency room. Like, even if they have, they might have something wrong, but they don't want to go in because it costs too much. So they wait and wait and wait, and then sometimes it's too late.
So one reason is, for example, they have a healthy baby. So what is the other 2 other?
Right. And they need to be, but they sort of still need to be not too specific. This is another one, right? So you got your big thesis, and then you want three sort of like mini thesis statements. So they're like a mini argument still. So this is where, like, this is the whole process of going through it and trying to figure out what your thesis is. And because also I'm thinking now, you could change your thesis a little bit and talk about low income, just say low income families. If you did low income families instead of just saying low income women, suddenly now you can also talk more about children. You can talk about the finances for the whole family and how medical bills can ruin them.
So I can broaden because at the first discussion I just talk about low income pregnant women, but
right. You might need, it depends what you find. If you find enough information to do that one, because I mean, in theory, right, you could talk about a whole section about mothers' prenatal care. You could do a whole section on the actual delivery of the baby. You could do a whole section on after the baby's born and what happens. So that's what I mean. You want three things. So that if you found enough information and you would be able to write enough, you could do that. If you can't, then you broaden it a little bit. So then you talk about the mother and you do all the stuff about the mother. Then you talk about the child and you could do about the child. And then you can talk about debt or whatever. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Like it depends basically on what you find as far as information. So if you find things, that specifically talk about like low income prenatal care and how it's hard to get and how, the private sector doesn't give it and all of that, then maybe you only, maybe you keep it what you have and you don't need to broaden it. So it's all about what you can find, because sometimes you can find things and it's plenty. You need to, yeah. So you're doing a couple things. You're going to have a thesis statement, which is your main argument. Then you're trying to write three good reasons why your argument is why yours is a good argument, right? Like a good position to take, right? So here's how it goes. You write your thesis statement. Then you're going to come up with three reasons why your position is important and valid, and describe the three reasons.
Yeah, this is the template, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we just need to, whatever I want to say, just put it in the template.
Yes, put it all in the template. So then, right, so you list three reasons why you have a good stance. You list three reasons why people might oppose you, right? Which is what we were just doing. So we have one at least. And then now you're going to write an actual entire introduction paragraph. And then you're listing, you want to try to at least have four sources. Even if you don't end up using them, right? You want to list them here. You want to find four sources that you might be able to use, but like it doesn't mean you have to use them forever. Okay. You know what I mean? You could get other sources and stuff like that. Introduction paragraph starts with this. A hook. So what this is, it's one or two sentences that make the reader interested in reading your essay, like reading on. So first few sentences I'll put. And hook just means grab. Well, it means basically grabbing attention.
Right.
So some people start with a famous quotation or a fact, something that's a fact or startling statistic of some sort. Like if you started off yours, for example, being like, I don't know, 25% of women still die in childbirth in America or something, I'd be like, whoa, what? Right? Like it's a startling sort of, I didn't know that. I mean, it has to be true too. That's the other thing. I always forget to mention.
I know.
Right. But then so that's one way to do it. That, or you ask a question. I don't know if I like, these are older ones. You ask a question that you're eventually going to answer, right? Like, would the government really do a better job, or, is private healthcare is private healthcare really the best? Something that sort of makes people interested. So that's all the hook is. The hook is just trying to get someone interested.
Attention, right?
Yeah. or you tell a little story that you find. If you found a story and you were like, Debbie Jones was 21 years old when she was going to have her first baby, and she went into the hospital, but she couldn't afford the hospital, so she tried to have it at home. Maybe I don't, some story that really brings up what you're going to talk about. That's always really great because people love stories. Anecdote is what I'll call it, which just means it's short. Next thing you need is like the background information for your subject. So this is like a few things you do.
This is all about my introduction paragraph, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
You're trying to start very broad and then you sort of narrow it as you go, the subject, until you get to your thesis statement. So like you start very broad. So for you, it's something like healthcare, has always been an issue in America or something. So you start very broad and then slowly, or not too slowly, 3 to 4 sentences, you focus in on women or low income women, and you sort of eventually you've given the background of it. You've introduced people to if there's any necessary terms that people don't know. I don't know if you have that, but some people may. And sort of explain what the problem is, the controversy or the issue, right? So you sort of end with this idea that it's difficult for low income families or women to get good health care or something.
Right.
And that's where you want to state your main argument. And if you can, you want to suggest or indicate what your 3 smaller arguments are going to be. So if you are going to just focus on the low income women, could be like government should provide low income women with health care because this will help them before, during, and after they have a child. And then your essay is about before, during, and after they have a child. If you did the other one, it would be they should provide low income families with health care because that's better for the mother and the child and saves them from it being in debt. I don't know. I'd say it in a better sentence, but
Right.
and then that's basically your introduction paragraph. So there's not a lot of specifics in it, right? There's not a lot of in fact there shouldn't really be. You're not citing anything. You're not really putting too much research in.
Right.
That's really for the other main paragraphs in the essay.
But these things is all about the template.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, I'm sort of adding to this because all the template tells you is write your paragraph, right? And I'm trying to break it into the different parts of it, the paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I just try to guide people because it goes just write your introduction paragraph. You go, okay. And so I'm saying here's what an introduction paragraph should have these things in it, basically, in this
Right.
order. In this order. So that's all.
Okay.
All right.
So this about the template, and the other thing is for the discussion
Yep.
board, right? That I have to say something and mention the opposing view about whatever.
You want to find a quote from in an article that has the opposing view.
Right.
And then put that there, and then I think you explain what it means, and then I think you just try to refute it, I think.